Hey you, and welcome. My name's Mike, and in this old/new video, we're going to a high school in the town of Danvers. Danvers High School, so it's easy to remember. Danvers has quite the history. It's in Massachusetts and was originally known as Salem Village. Yeah, that's Salem. Though there still is a Salem that's just down the road. It's all like one big witch's cauldron. This is where the trials actually happened before the town was renamed. Let's move on. It's also home, or was home, to Danvers State Hospital. That's your haunting 101 right there. So quite the, spooky history, right? And around Halloween 2013, something would be added to that. Let's give it a go. Danvers is home to about 27,000 people. It's a hop, skip, and jump away from downtown Boston, about 30 minutes by car. That's what Danvers is, really, a suburb. A place where, your kids would go to school. And the high school they would go to is Danvers High School. Danvers High School sits close to the edge of Danvers, by Beverly Regional Airport, and it enrolls close to 1,000 students. It opened in 1962, its football team is the Danvers Falcons, yeah, it's really cooler, no one will notice. And guess what, the lead singer of the band, Boston, was also an alumni. Man, seems like their imagination has just been beaten out of them since the witch trials. To be fair, it didn't lead to anything good back then. The high school motto is ladies and gentlemen, always, though not in this case. It has about 100 teachers, and back in 2013, Colleen Ritzer was one of them. So, speaking of witches and spooky things and horrific things, Danvers is kind of the perfect place, and this story takes us to the perfect time, right before Halloween. Colleen Ritzer was born in May 1989 in the town of Lawrence, MA, a town about half an hour from downtown Danvers. She grew up in Andover, graduated high school there, and then went to Assumption College, now Assumption University. High school math was her game, and after spending a year teaching at the middle school in Stowe, she arrived at Danvers High School in 2012. She loved her family, was very close with them, always won at gatherings and parties, hockey games. If her family was playing or just there, she would be too. Supportive. And not just for those related, she loved teaching and wanted to be there for her students. She always wanted to be a teacher when she grew up, ever since she was, a young'un. And it wasn't for, the usual reasons, right? June, July, and August. No, she wanted to inspire, to help, to teach and support by being creative and finding new ways to reach out to her students. She was passionate. Colleen taught 9th grade algebra, and although new, this was her second year there, she was already beloved at Danvers High School. Her Twitter, it's all math problems and games for her students, and it seems like her bio fit her like a glove. Math teacher often too excited about the topics I'm teaching. Tuesday, the 22nd of October 2013 started out like any other day. They always do. The wind was rustling, leaves were falling, pumpkins were out, temperature was getting up to about 21 degrees Celsius. Students were excited about the upcoming festivities, and teachers were settled into the semester. Colleen had classes, as per normal all that day until about 2:30. Then she was going to stay behind, spend some extra time with students, a couple of students who needed, bit of extra help, a leg up on the algebra. At 2:54 p.m, Colleen went to use the bathroom. And that, then, was that. School finished up Then about an hour later, at 4. After school finished up that day, that's when all the, after school, extracurricular activities, they all kicked off then. However, as the afternoon turned to evening, parents began to worry. Colleen's parents, Peggy and Tom Ritzer, couldn't get through to Colleen. Colleen, 24 years old, still lived with her parents close to Danvers, and should have been due home from school as the hours went by. Tom drove over to Danvers High School. He eyeballed her car in the car park, kicked the tires, went around. Anybody seen Colleen? No? No. And then, they started calling Colleen's friends. Maybe she was out, having a drink or something. They called the police and reported her missing. After school, as I said, extracurricular stuff began, and at soccer practice, the coach noticed he was missing a player. 14-year-old Philip Chism. The fact that he wasn't there wasn't, immediately like, oh my god, where is he? It was more like, he's not here. Philip had only been at Danvers High School for 2 months. He had arrived at the start of the semester from Tennessee. So he didn't really have a huge amount of friends, and his teammates, they didn't know him that well. However, Colleen's parents weren't the only ones staring at their phones and at the clock. Philip's mother, Diana, she had no clue where he was. He was, supposed to come home after soccer practice, and as the hours went by, he had no friends, he was new to town. She began to worry, where is he? Diana was in the middle of a pretty rough divorce from Philip's father, hence the move from Tennessee to Massachusetts. And Philip was going through some difficult times himself. It's not easy if your parents are going through an acrimonious divorce, and he didn't want to move. He didn't want to be there. He never wanted to leave Tennessee. He didn't like Danvers High School. He felt bullied and generally bad times all round. He wasn't answering his phone, and eventually at 6:34 p.m. Diana called and reported 14-year-old Philip missing to the police. The search was on. A couple of hours later, the school principal sent out an email to all staff and faculty, letting them know that a student was missing. Around the same time, the principal also got a phone call saying a teacher was missing also. Colleen taught Philip maths. It was later reported that Colleen and Philip were seen together in that classroom. Colleen was giving him extra help. The fact that they were, last seen together and then they both went missing. Did they go missing, together? The police focused on Philip first, 14 years old, he was a minor. They traced his phone to a cinema in Danvers. At 4:30, he had gone to see a film there. A Woody Allen film, Blue Jasmine, and then he was gone. Did he run away? He said he didn't want to be there, so did he stop being there? While patrol cars searched the streets of Danvers, officers started sifting through the footage at the high school to see what happened in the room between Colleen and Philip. They also searched the school, and in the girls' bathroom closest to the classroom they had been in, they found what looked like bloody smears. They then started searching the school perimeter. And among the dead leaves and barren trees as autumn twilight settled in, they found Colleen's purse. It was empty. No wallet, no money, no cards, no nothing. But a clue, and one they began to imagine would not lead to a happy ending. Then, a couple of hours later, right around 3 a.m., the witching hour, under a pile of leaves, Colleen Ritzer was found. She had been murdered. Colleen, she was naked from the waist down. She was covered in blood, scratches, dirt, and blood especially to the neck area. Beside her body, they found a note, and the note was handwritten, and it said, "I hate you all." A couple of yards away, they found a bin and bloody gloves. It didn't take long to put 2 and 2 together when both were last seen together, and now one was missing and one was murdered. Well, he wasn't missing by the time Colleen was finally found. Philip was found walking the sidewalk around 2 hours before in Topsfield, a small village maybe 10 minutes away. He was wearing his backpack, and after searching, they found a box cutter, bloody, women's underwear, and Colleen's cards. So he briefly said he broke into her car and stole them, until they asked about the blood on the box cutter, and he said it came from the girl. When Colleen went to the bathroom that day, Philip followed her. And he knew what he was doing as he put his hood up and gloves on. In his pocket was a box cutter. This kid, he had brought a box cutter, gloves, mask, and a change of clothing to school that morning. He walked into the bathroom behind Colleen, and after they were in there for about 11 minutes, a student actually entered, but swiftly left after witnessing, quote, an exposed butt. She thought someone was in there changing clothes. He then left and changed clothing, running around, at one point distracting away from the bathroom a classmate that had come looking for him. And at 3:14 p.m, he wheeled a bin into the bathroom. And as calm as you like, wheeled it out of the school, was not stopped, questioned at all, passed a fellow walking his good boy, and then he went into the woods. He then returned 25 minutes later. Changed once again to all black clothing, and returned to the scene of the crime. Then he left the school. From there, he went to see a flick. I'm sure there were better ones than Woody Allen. After he got grub and wandered about until he was caught not long after midnight. When Philip entered the bathroom behind Colleen, he strangled her, stabbed her at least 16 times, and raped her. Then he put her in the bin, took her out to the woods and sexually assaulted her with a tree branch, then posed her in a graphic position. She was likely still alive, the district attorney would later say, and passed from blood loss sometime later before she was found.
A 14-year-old high school student has been charged with killing a teacher in the eastern part of the state.
Philip Chism was ordered held without bail at his murder arraignment in adult court in Salem today. Police said the teen killed Danvers High School math teacher Colleen Ritzer, whose body was found in the woods behind the school just after midnight last night. The 24-year-old teacher was reported missing after she didn't come home from work yesterday. Investigators found blood in a second-floor school bathroom and located her body soon after.
I can say that she was a very, very respected, loved teacher. And at 24 years of age, as I said, it's a terrible tragedy for the entire Danvers community.
Teenage suspect was reported missing yesterday afternoon when he failed to come home from school. Police found him walking along a highway early this morning. As we said, he was ordered held without bail today, pending a hearing in November. Chisholm had recently moved to Massachusetts from Tennessee. He was a top goal scorer on the school soccer team.
Why this happened? Well, that's something for the trial to answer, but a student who's in the room with Philip and Colleen said that as they were talking away, Colleen happened to mention Tennessee, and this just snapped Philip. She could tell it made him very upset just mentioning it. Philip would say the same. Colleen simply mentioning Tennessee would drive him to kill her, blaming Colleen for what happened to her. But that's obviously a lie. He brought all of this stuff to school that day. I mean, what kind of excuse was he looking for?
I was really shocked that it was him. I wouldn't suspect it at all. I was like people say it's always the quiet ones though, so maybe that's why it could have been if he had troubles at home or something, but he was nice, so I didn't suspect it that much.
Philip was indicted on charges of robbery, aggravated rape, and armed robbery. He pleaded not guilty.
Please rise. Philip Chism, on indictment number 2013-1446-001, charging on the 22nd day of October 2013 at Danvers in the county of Essex, did assault and beat Colleen Ritzer with the intent to murder her, and by such assault and beating did kill and murder said Colleen Ritzer. What's your search of this indictment? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Counsel,
Around 1,000 people attended Colleen's funeral. Philip was tried as an adult in Salem in 2015. Tried as an adult due to the horrificness of the crime itself. Like, that's real fucking serial killer type shite, right? Not only that, fucking hell, right? When he was in the youth facility awaiting trial, he attacked a female guard with a sharpened pencil. She was like only just saved by the other guards. So that's more shite.
15-year-old Philip Chism attacked a female staffer. The assault eerily similar to the deadly attack last fall on Danvers High math teacher Colleen Ritzer. At the detention center, sources say surveillance video shows Chism following a female worker into a staff locker room, carrying what appears to be a pencil. The woman says Chism came at her and began choking her. As she screamed for help, he started punching her. Within seconds, staff members rushed in to help and restrain Chism. She was not seriously injured.
Chism was under a lot of stress when he started at Danvers. He had lost his entire support system. He was away from his best friend. He had lost the Carter family. He had lost his soccer coach. He had lost all the support of a close-knit community in Clarksville, Tennessee. And he came to Danvers, where he knew practically no one, and had to start as a freshman in high school and deal with all the social, social, emotional demands of being a young teen starting high school. The real work of this case is to figure out the terrible landscape of a young boy's mind.
The defense said he was mentally ill. He was in the throes of psychosis and wasn't responsible for his actions. He had been triggered by Colleen by simply mentioning Tennessee, a painful reminder, and so this child killed her horrifically.
And ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear, he didn't have a good plan for getting away with this. He's 14 years old. We agree with that. Not a lot of long-term thinking, and he had accomplished already the one thing he really wanted to accomplish in those woods. I am not going to stand here and tell you there is nothing wrong with Philip Chism. How could I? But I am going to submit that there is overwhelming evidence in this case beyond any reasonable doubt that Philip Chism was not suffering from a mental disease or defect on October 22nd of 2013. That Philip Chism knew right from wrong and could choose right from wrong. He did it repeatedly over the course of that afternoon. He just didn't do it when it mattered. He had a goal, a terrible, terrible purpose, and he played it out in the woods, and he didn't care what came after that. This was Colleen Ritzer. This is Colleen Ritzer. This is the Colleen Ritzer who was alone in that bathroom and in those woods with Philip Chism, not a mentally ill child, not someone powerless to voices in his head. The only person powerless in those bathrooms, in those woods, is Colleen Ritzer.
The prosecution said no, there was no mental illness. He planned everything out, the evidence is there, and he knew exactly what he was doing. He was an angry person who just wanted to lash out. There were never any real warning signs in Philip's past. His parents, their split obviously traumatized him, but other than that, nothing has ever really been pointed to that, would cause him to do this. A psychologist would determine that any mental illness Philip had, he was faking it, or at the very least, faking the extent of it. The jury found Philip guilty of what is one of the most disturbing crimes I've come across, especially from someone so young.
The defendant was quiet, polite, athletic, and had no prior criminal record. Then, on October 22nd, 2013, he carefully and deliberately prepared to kill his math teacher. He viciously, brutally, and senselessly attacked Colleen in the girls' bathroom, just feet from the classroom, where she was in her second year of living her dream of being a teacher. When the defendant was finished in the bathroom, he put Colleen Ritzer inside a recycle bin, wheeled her to the woods, and pulled up her shirt, exposing her breasts. Thereafter, he spread her legs and inserted a large tree branch inside her. Colleen Ritzer was found dead hours later, after a frantic search by law enforcement. The jury found, to a moral certainty, that the defendant killed Colleen Ritzer and that he was criminally responsible for her murder. The court will impose a sentence in this case without emotion, passion, sympathy, or pity. No amount of prison time would ever be enough to be commensurate with this crime, and no math will ever erase the reality that this crime was committed by a 14-year-old boy.
He was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years, and also 2 40-year terms to run concurrently for the other charges, rape and robbery.
The court will impose the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years, the highest level our law allows. This court will impose a concurrent sentence of 40 years to 40 years and 1 day for the rape of Colleen Ritzer and a concurrent sentence of 40 years to 40 years and 1 day for the armed robbery.
He won't be getting out. This case is horrific, definitely up there in the ones, I've covered at least. Colleen seemed like such a beautiful spirit. I mean, you can now go onto her Twitter account, it's still there. And she just wanted to excite and inspire people about, maths. To be fair, she had her work cut out for her. Her memory isn't forgotten though. And Philip, that's definitely serial killer in the making type stuff. You can only imagine what he would get up to if he was, able to be out and about when he did that when he was a child. Sheesh. What a happy Halloween in Salem. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this whole video. Sure, go on. I'll see you as always real soon in the next one. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Mike out.